How's everybody doing? We want to welcome you to the Opinionated 7-Footers Podcast. I'm Ryan Hollins, former 10-year NBA veteran. That's my broadcast partner, none other than 7'1", 285-pound Brendan Hayward.
Why do you change my weight every week, though? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
No, NBA weight is never accurate. I was 230 for the longest time. But hey, enough about you, dog. We got a special guest. The first lady, yes. And not just the NBA, but the first on the Opinionated 7-Footers Podcast, going into her 13th year as a professional, two-time MVP, one chip, should have a couple more chips. We're going to talk about that later. None other than Candace Parker. Candace, what's going on?
How you guys doing? Thanks for having me. Finally, I've been asking Brendan to get on the podcast for quite some time, and he told me I had to wait. Yeah, he told me I had to wait.
I'm not because you little sis. I ain't even gonna do you like that, man. I wouldn't do you like
that.
I'm glad to have you on here. I can't wait because I know some of your stories, but I can't wait for you to get out here and tell it and put your own little spin on it. Listen, when we start this podcast off, we always like to start from the beginning of somebody's career. What got them into being who they are today? For you, I think I know a little bit of it because we talk a lot about you playing against your brothers and you develop this mentality like, yo, just because you a boy, that don't mean you better than me. And I could feel it on set. I'm like, ooh. So talk to me about how you just developed into Candace Parker, the competitor, like, yo, man, I don't care if you're a man or woman, whatever, on that court, you ain't seeing me.
Honestly, it was my upbringing. I grew up, my brothers were my heroes, honestly. Anthony, our oldest, he's 11 years older than me. Marcus is 8 years older than me. And I grew up trying to be just like them. And I wanted to do everything they did to the point where I remember when I was little, I'd have barrettes and dresses and all that stuff. And we'd go to the park and they'd take their shirt off. And I would be like, but you said I could do everything boys could do to my parents. And I would try to, they'd be like, well, accept that. That's the only thing you can't do.
Hey, you trying to get CPS on the line, man. They can't do that now, Candace.
So that was just the mentality I grew up with, was that, my parents raised us, we didn't have different curfews. Like we had the same expectations. There wasn't like, I would be running after the car. They would be running after the car. I would get yelled at for not doing something. They would it wasn't a boy and girl thing. And so I think it was kind of a shock when I was 18 and left the house and I saw that like, wow, that's what people in the world may think of women and their limitations. And so that's kind of how it started. My nickname was Can Do, anything and get away with it. That's my brothers gave it to me. And I kind of just X'd out the anything and get away with it. And it was Can Do. And so anytime I would doubt myself or something, my mom would be like, man, Can Do, come on. You got this, whatever. And so that's kind of how it started. And, I'm thankful for that.
Dive into a little bit about AP. And I assumed that was going to be the road you were going to go. Candace, obviously I watched you in college. When we first met, I played with AP over there with the Cavaliers, and you would come down and kind of come and hang
you
out
played with everybody.
Observe. And I thought, hey, no, seriously,
play for like 15 teams, man.
Yeah, man, I play for all your teams and about 5 or 6 more. Okay, all right, Candace,
all right, my bad.
Lifetime spark. Okay, the rest of the NBA need to travel a journey. That happens. But nonetheless, like, you got a chance to like watch and learn and see everything from a different perspective. And I remember Anthony would always just brag about you in the locker room about, how good you were. And he's a, when we talk about a pro's pro, AP he's actually the reason I'm in broadcasting. I don't know if y'all know that. It was me, AP, and Anderson Varejao. And we were in the cold tub. And I used to get in the cold tub because I would watch him and be like, oh, he takes care of his body. Like, what I need to do and just listen and soak up game. He was like, go take the broadcaster U course for the NBA.
In Connecticut. Yep. In Connecticut.
He was like, you'll find out if there's something you want to do. And I got the bug. So whether you love or hate Ryan Hollins as a broadcaster, listen, you got to blame Anthony Parker now. But talk to me about his journey. Like, what did you learn? Brendan, stop smiling, dog. What did you learn sitting back and watching, because he was the MVP over there in Tel Aviv, if I'm not mistaken, or in Israel, played for the Cavaliers. Like, what did you learn watching?
It's interesting because with him being so much older than me, it was like when I was starting my basketball career, starting sports, starting school, he was already in the NBA. He got drafted when I was in middle school. And then in high school, he was gone overseas. So literally he came back and I was a junior in college. And I remember calling him when I won the McDonald's All-American Dunk Contest, and it was right around April Fool's. And he was like, nah, you did it. Like, you know, so he was getting news like through the newspaper, through what we would tell him. So it was really cool when he came back here my junior year in college. And I remember he's my hero. Like I say that, but just in terms of not just basketball, but just as like a human being, like he's the polar opposite personality of myself. Like he's calm, cool, collected, makes, you know, collected decisions, really thinks about it, you know, is the pro's pro, as you said. He was out there fundamental jab step shot over and over and over. I was trying to do and one mixtape, like handle behind my back, bounce it off my elbow. Like I was that child. And so just to watch him, he's the first person I call when I'm thinking about something or want to make a decision. He surprised me.
Is there any big decisions that stick out? Like kind of, you know, I don't know if it's free agency or, you know, contract negotiations or shoe deals or any Turner brought. Was there anything that like you leaned on him that you can, you know, take us into?
Man, well, honestly, everything. Going overseas to Russia was a huge decision. I had a 6-month-old baby, and just trying to decide whether I wanted to make that transition to go over to a foreign country that we in America, honestly, don't speak highly of. And Anthony is that constant voice that gives me both sides, both my brothers, honestly. Marcus, I remember he came to Knoxville when I was making my decision as who I wanted to sign with for an agent, shoe deals, you know, I mean, literally everything. I can remember the day where I called Anthony, told him I was pregnant with my daughter, and he was so excited about it. And so I think just in general, I don't think there's a decision I've made in my life that I haven't, you know, spoke to my brother about.
I thought something was really interesting. You said you were talking about your game, and you were talking about the and one mixtape version of your game. Well, Candace, I done stood beside you. You're 6'4". And you're, you know, like at that age back then, girls that were 6'4", similar to guys myself, when you were the tallest person on the court, drop you off in the paint and tell you to stay there. All that and one mixtape stuff you talk about, you were learning. My coach is like, don't leave that paint. You're gonna jump hook your way to the league. All right. Now, why is it that young Brendan Haywood didn't get to leave the paint, but Candace at 6'4" was getting to run around like Magic Johnson? Like, how did you develop that part of your game? Because hybrid bigs weren't in style back then.
Honestly, Brendan, my dad, and he looked crazy. I was the tallest kid on my YBA team, and my dad made everybody play every position. And to the point where it was like they could throw me the ball, and the tallest player next to me was like too little. And I could have literally turned around and done a right hook. And he's like, but that's not what you're going to be able to do. My grandma is not the tallest. She's 5'5". So he was like, what if you stop growing? You got to be able to have the fundamentals. And then for me, you know my mind, Brendan. I cannot stay. I need like action. I need entertainment. I need different like things every day. And so for me to just do right hooks, that was just not in my mentality. And so it was just kind of, my dad would almost get frustrated with me because I would make things harder just to make things interesting. And so I would come down and do a move 4 times and it'd score. And then the next time they would give me that same move and I would try to do something different. And I think over time I've learned to be a little bit more disciplined with my skill set, but I'm really thankful my dad didn't listen to the people that told me to just stand underneath the basket and shoot right hooks.
For sure, because Candace Parker playing like Brendan Haywood wouldn't be no fun.
Oh, stop it. Believe me, I want Brendan Haywood's career, so quit. I want that.
Just stop. We want your career to stop. We listen, we're not going there. Hey, but all right, look, now let's jump to college. You could have went anywhere in the country, but you took the challenge of playing for the legend Pat Summitt. My goodness, like forget women, forget men, like just basketball legend Pat Summitt. What was the choice to go to Tennessee like? Take me through that experience. Like why? Like, were you like, what did you learn? Like, did she surprise you? Was it like, hey, Pat, you were nice on the home visit and you crazy once practice starts? Like, what was it like? We've heard some of the, some of you talk about it a few times before.
Honestly, my dad and my mom wanted me to go play for what they wanted me to be, in the sense of they wanted me to know that I could lead, that, I didn't have to follow all the time, that I had a voice, that it was bigger than basketball. And to be honest with you, if I'm being correct, they hadn't won a championship in 8 years when I had got there. And so with that being said, I didn't want to go someplace that's all they did was win, and I was just kind of adding to the trophy case. I wanted to leave my mark. And I think that drought really was what pushed me over. I wanted to be a part of something super special and be a part of a historical program. But at the end of the day, Ryan, like walking into an arena of 24,000 screaming fans for women's basketball.
Facts.
Like, we played second for Midnight Madness. So the guys played first, we played second. I mean, just
first. Straight up.
It's like it was a women's basketball town and a program, and everything was about that. I mean, we led the nation in attendance my entire career at Tennessee. On the road was crazy. We had to have security. We had to have police escorts to games. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to play in front of that. And so my biggest question was like, my brother wanted to be a doctor. So he went to Johns Hopkins to be a doctor. That was one of the best schools, still is one of the best schools. I want to be a basketball player. Like, that's what I want to be. So why not go to the best basketball school? And honestly, like from top to bottom, I mean, Tennessee prepared me for life. It's not just basketball. Like, I think there's a lot of programs that are great at basketball, but Tennessee prepared me for life as well.
And speaking about preparing you for life, I feel the exact same way about Carolina. Is there a time where Pat Summitt gave you some advice or there was an instance where she just did something that stuck with you for life? I know for me, I played under Bill Guthridge, and I know this is hard for y'all to believe that I used to always be late a lot, right? Stop.
You used to be what?
I used to be late a lot. I used to be late.
Oh, wow.
And so Coach Guthridge, he said, I was always late. He said, Brendan, I need you to meet me at my office at 8 a.m. This is in the summertime. I didn't have a car. So 8 a.m. in the summertime, there's no buses, no car. I got to run all the way across campus. So I'm up at 7 o'clock sprinting across campus because I can't be late. I get there. He's not there. There's a note that says, you normally don't value my time, so I'm not valuing yours. Meet me here at noon. That's when your meeting really starts. And from that moment on, I was never late again on campus. I was never late again in my NBA career. Now, at Turner, I might be a little bit late, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, Candace, the car has to circle and come back, and then I'm standing outside sweating in Atlanta heat. But other than that...
Candace, don't do me like that.
Because I was like, wait a second, are we talking about just...
Nah, Candace, don't do me like that.
Basketball or...
Candace, don't do me like that. I thought you were my people. But that lesson that I learned in college, I never got fined for being late in the league because of that moment. Did you have that type of moment with Pat Summitt?
Yes, many moments. I think Coach Summitt was the hardest working person, and I don't say woman, I say person I've ever come across in my entire life. Reading her books is one thing where you're like, man, a lot of people write different stories in their books and they're like, oh yeah, that's cool. But to actually be there and see and witness that she actually walked the walk, that's the biggest thing. I was in trouble at Tennessee. I wasn't working hard in practice. And so she's getting on me and whatever. And she's like, Parker, you don't really want it. Like, if you want it, you can get anything you want. If you really want it, you're like, don't waste this. That's basically what she was saying. Don't waste what the gift that you're given. And so I was like, the next morning I was like, all right, I'm going to show her. Like, I'm going to show her that I want to work. So I got up. We had 6 a.m. workouts. I got there at like 4:30. So I got up at 4, left my dorm, got there at 4:30. I'm like, I'm going to have a full lather, be sweating, go in there and get a couple drills, shoot on the gun. I get there, her light is on. She has a towel, like she had already worked out. And she's sitting at her desk, like doing recruiting letters or whatever.
4:30.
4:30 in the morning for
4:30 a.m.?
Yeah.
Woo, Pat Summitt. Woo.
So to me, it's like, you're not going to outwork her. And in every book she says that, but to be able to like see it, like, I think it's more of like the experience that makes it so special. And then, you know, I got this tattooed on my arm. It's like left foot, right foot, breathe, repeat. And her whole thing is like, she would always give us advice about how to fight through obstacles and how to get through tough times. And like, she had the definite dozen principles, and it was like all well and good. But then to see like when she got sick, that she actually did all the things that she gave us advice in doing. Just put one foot in front of the other, breathe, live your life for the present. Like, just, I mean, it was unbelievable to me to see that it didn't matter what the circumstance was. She was the same person. And I think in this world, we don't have that a lot of times.
Man, that's deep right there. B, are you frozen? Or you just like speechless?
Nah, I'm just listening.
I got you. Hey, man,
I'm not frozen. Candace doing the thing, man. I've seen her do a thing before. So when she's doing the thing, I just play the background. I'm in awe.
Hey, no, that Teddy Riley Wi-Fi, I got to make sure sometimes. Hey, dog.
He's either doing that or he's like kneeing me underneath the desk because somebody said something crazy and I have to keep a straight face.
All right, Candace,
we'll get to that later in the show.
You did your thing in college, story resume, and then you get to the league and you go like Super Saiyan mode and you level up. In your first game, I'm not mistaken, you scored like something like 36 points. You go off. Take me through that very first game, like, because that's like unreal. Like you set a WNBA record, and then I want to hear about Lisa Leslie, because we calling you the first lady, the opinionated first lady of the league right now. You're doing your thing, but we got to pay respect to our OGs. And Lisa Leslie was like I was a young boy in LA. And I was like, yo, I want to be like Lisa. Like, I'm looking up to her. You see Lisa, you're like starstruck, because low key she put 6'4" down. She closer to like 6'6".
No, she's 6'6".
Yeah,
I've been on set with Lisa. I'm like, man, she ain't no way she's 6'4".
She's 6'6". I had the advantage of playing USA basketball before, you know, my professional career started. So USA basketball really prepared me. I played on the senior national team my freshman year. We went to Australia and then Worlds and then a qualifier in Chile. So I had the experience of playing like among some of the best players.
And
honestly, Tina Thompson, she really took me under her wing initially. And I grew up idolizing Tina. I was a Houston Comets fan. I was like raising the roof, doing all that, trying to rep Kim Perrot's jersey and be like Cynthia Cooper and Cheryl Swoops with her crossover, all that. Like I was that kid. And so when I was on the senior national team with her, it was like a dream come true. Like I did everything she did. So she showed me the shimmy, the first USA basketball practice, like Tina Thompson's like fake baseline, you know, the shimmy, like Kobe perfected that you see Michael do, all that. So Tina had that. And I just would kind of just ask different players. I mean, I remember talking to Cheryl Swoops and like getting her crossover move and just trying to like learn and pick up as much as I could. And so when I came into the league, I felt like I had prepared. And honestly, it is an advantage in the WNBA. I understand like later in the season, you're tired, but in the beginning of the season, you're in rhythm. Like we won the national championship one night and I got drafted the next night. And then I flew to LA the next night. So like, I mean, my hair was still from champagne, like wet from champagne. And I was getting drafted to LA Sparks. So, I mean, I was in rhythm going into the season. And I think it's a huge advantage, you know, from that aspect of going into playing in your rookie season. But then Lisa, like it worked out that she had her daughter. So LA ended up being last in the seeding the previous year. So she got pregnant, had her daughter, didn't come back and play. And I remember when the lottery came out, it was between LA and Chicago. And you know, I'm from Chicago. And I was like, please LA, like, please LA, like get the, you know, my brothers, everybody. And when LA got the lottery, oh my gosh, I was so excited to be able to go out and play with Lisa Leslie. Like a lot of number one draft picks, they go play for, you know, terrible team. Whereas I was playing with Lisa Leslie, Delisha Milton, I was playing with Marie Ferdinand Harris, like all of Betty Lennox. I was playing with all of them. Then the next year we got Tina Thompson. So it was just like, I just tried to learn and pick up as much as I could. I mean, Lisa was hard on me. I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you she was hard on me, but everything she pushed me to do, she was doing herself. So, you know,
Is there a story that sticks out that you could walk us through? We always say a young former self, a young Candace Parker that kind of, you know, took a wild shot or didn't get back on defense, and, you know, walk me through that. Walk me through that experience.
That was like
Candace.
every other play. I would say my rookie year, I started off really hot. Like, I mean, we started off, I think 6-0, and I had like, I don't know the stats, but I was playing extremely well. And the first day I walked in the doors with the Sparks, Michael Cooper was our coach. And he looked at me and he was like, you need to be going for rookie of the year and MVP. He's like, in order for us to win a championship, you have to go for that. And I was like, word, like, no, he's like, it's never been done before. You need to go get that. Like, I remember sitting in the office and everything and being like, dang. So then like we started playing preseason and I was like almost getting close to triple doubles and like whatever. And he was like, all right. Like, so after 2 weeks we had won, and there was something that happened at the end of the game where we blew a lead and I was just didn't get back on defense or something, you know, rookie stuff. And the next day in practice, I came in and my jersey was flipped to white. I was like, y'all tripping. So they put me on a white team, and Lisa and Delisha Milton took turns just beating the shit out of me the entire practice. And Coop was laughing. He didn't call any fouls. He was dying laughing. I mean, I'm talking, Delisha hit me with oh my gosh, she hit me with an elbow in my stomach. I'm
surprised you ain't fight. I know you like to scrap.
Oh man, I like to scrap, I know, but man, they put me in my place. I'm not going to lie. They took turns. And after that, I was on the same page with them. And, you know, we should have won a championship that year.
But Alice, you said you should have won a championship, but eventually you got to win that title. Let's talk about the championship. I get to ask you this question because Ryan don't know nothing about that, right? So what we gonna do is
Really, dog?
Yeah, yes.
Really?
This is what we do. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Hold on. Okay. We're all multi-year professionals here. We didn't have to talk championship, okay?
Listen, but we got to, because Candace had the championship. We already talked about this. Championships is like the club. Because you made it to the league, you're in general admission. Me and Candace, we behind the velvet rope with the bottles, the sparklers, and security, all right? Don't try to get in our section. Now, Candace, back to you. We back here in the velvet rope section. Was there anything that stuck out from the most, or there was a moment? Like on our championship run in Dallas, man, there was this one game where Dirk just took over against OKC. We're down 15 with 5 to play in Oklahoma.
I remember that.
Bam! I'm literally talking to D. Steve like, yo, I think these young boys are gonna push us to 7 games. I thought we were gonna lose the game, and then just like that, we win, and the series is pretty much over. For you, was there a moment that involved you, your team, whatever? You can just say like, this was the moment where I knew, yeah, we were ready. We're gonna take that. We're gonna win it this year.
When we came in and they ranked us 6 in the preseason polls. And like anybody that knows me knows I love challenges. And if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. And so we came in and Brian Agler, he was our coach at the time. He was like, you know, that's what they think of you guys. And I think maybe you guys are like 4th or 5th. And then my dad called in like, yeah, what's wrong? And then Anthony, of course, calls in and is like, yeah, I think that's about right.
He's the
like,
worst.
y'all about 6.
Hey, hold on. He is the worst.
He stirs the pot more than
he
anybody.
Is the worst.
He stirs it more. He stirs it more than me.
Yes, more than you.
He stirs it more than,
because he's so logical about it.
Yeah.
He is the worst.
He really is a logical pot stirrer, if you could say that. No, Anthony really is. Honestly, that's what happened. And then that entire season was like a redemption year for everybody, because myself, NECA, we got cut from the USA team, which was bullshit. And can I cuss on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you?
So anyway, I didn't want Justin to have to bleep out a bunch of stuff. But anyway, yeah, like it was just a redemption year, and we were just sick of the disrespect. And that's kind of what happened. I mean, the entire year, NECA played unbelievable basketball. And I think we got to a point where we just had a close team. I mean, you know how it just clicks and everything just seems like it's going right. And you can kind of feel it. I bought this book for our team, and it's called Chop Wood, Carry Water. It's one of my favorite books. And I look back at our playoff experience and I realized like we were so pressed. Like, even though I would get like 30 against Minnesota, it would be like, everything was just so like, we have to do it. And this book is about like surrendering the results and just the journey, and basically about how the golf balls at first were smooth and they had no dents in them. And then they realized as much as they got hit, the better they traveled. And so that was kind of our mantra throughout that year, is like, just surrender the results. Like, all those hits are going to help us get where we want to go, and all those hits we've taken. And so that's kind of how we went about the season. Like, we just played. We did as much preparation as we could, and then we just went out there and performed.
Candace, let me touch on that championship a little bit, because I'm an LA native, and we know it's a Laker town. You know, I'm gonna say it's a UCLA Bruin town, but there's just so many teams here. Honestly, what was the experience like winning the championship? Were there LA legends that reached out? I know a lot of, you guys are like, the brother sister with the Lakers. Whether was Magic in attendance, Kobe, any of those guys, and looking out, maybe even foreshadowing the game now where the women's game is changing. We're like, hey man, like, we walking around champs, like, y'all need to hear us. What was that like? Was the respect there or not? And just even as a professional, just people reaching out.
When I first got there, Michael Cooper said to me, like, if you win in LA, and even if you win multiple championships in LA will love you forever. Like, no matter what you do. And I was like, okay. And so when we won, it was crazy. We had a chance to clinch the championship in game 4 in LA at Staples. Kobe was in attendance. Magic Johnson was in attendance. We had a chance, and I had visualized, because I've seen Kobe jump on the scores table and do the whole, with the towel and pumping your fist in the air and beating your chest to the crowd. And I had pictured all that. They had all this preparation for championships and all that stuff. And we lost at home and had to go back to Minnesota for game 5. So we went from inches away from winning a championship to now damn, we could have done all this and lose. So I'm driving home. I'm hot. I'm nobody talked to me at this point. And Ramona Shelburne, actually, she's a close friend of mine. She reached out and was like, just listen. Just listen to those that are reaching out to you. And I was like, all right. So Magic texted me and we had a conversation. Kobe texted me. We had a conversation. And they just put it in the same thing. You go there. If you were given one chance to win a championship at the beginning of the year, would you take it? And I was like, hell yeah. One game to win a championship? Yeah, I would have taken it at the beginning of the season. Well, that's what it is. And brother said the same thing. Just surrender the results. And that was kind of our mantra. That's what was so crazy, is when we got in the moment, it was okay, this is what we did all this preparation for. And we were able to win, which was so much sweeter. In Minnesota, game 5, nothing like it. Everybody was cheering against us, booing us. We had a 10-point lead and we blew it and almost lost the championship. So this might be a different story if it was that way. But we like to make things interesting. So it was one for the ages for sure.
Man, you got Kobe and Magic just hitting up the line like that, boy. I tell you, boy, you so big time. Hey, but speaking of Kobe,
I'm trying to be like you, Brennan.
Nah, stop it. Hey, you surpassed me a long time ago. But speaking of Kobe, I got a chance to see some on through your Instagram that you and Kobe got a chance to work out together. He was showing you some moves. What did you learn from a mentality standpoint? What moves did he show you that maybe you didn't see before? What did he show you about the game?
I always tell this story. I first got to LA and I met Kobe at the Beijing Olympics. I mean, we had known each other in passing, but not spent time together. And so in Beijing, they had a players lounge in the Beijing hotel, and we would hang out and play cards. And, Boo Ray was huge then. So we'd play and I would just watch them play because I'm putting in for the pot. But anyway.
I'm about to say now, hey, they'll come get all that money now, Candace.
Nah, baby need diapers. I can't do that. And so I would watch them play and just kind of pick his brain and hear the stories and all that stuff. And so when I first started my playoff run in LA, he he sent me the most, I wish I would have kept it, this hilarious voicemail that I had to send my brother, because he was talking about, and when the orchestra plays and the maestro points at you, or the maestro points at you, then you'll know when your solo is supposed to be, and like all this stuff. And it was just like so Kobe. It was just so Kobe. Like, it was just, that's his mindset. And so just to be able to see the way that he was when he was winning championships, to see the way that his mindset and the evolution of him, and to be able to be some of the people that he let in to his mindset. I mean, I think it was a gift for me to be able to go work out with him at this point in his career and see how much he put into his craft. I mean, all of us watched Kobe and watched him dominate, but then just being there and like seeing how, like, I did a jab step and he was like, "You ain't going that way." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "'Cause you jabbed with your right foot, but your left leg didn't do that angle in. So you're not going that way." He's like, "If I'm a defender, I'm not biting." And then I went back in the mirror. He's like, "You need to do it at home in the mirror." He's like, "You need to do like 15 jab steps in the mirror at home. Just look at yourself in the mirror and do it. And then go that way and see what your body does when you go that way." Like, he was that meticulous. And so I remember the biggest question I always wanted to ask and asked him was like, how do you have the confidence to take a shot after you've gone 5 for 27? That's my biggest thing. Because for me, if I'm in a game and I go 5 for 27, I'm like, man, it might be better. It's not my night. He's like, "Well, I've practiced that shot too much so that the next shot has to go in. Like, it has to, because I've practiced that shot so many times over and over." And so he was just ahead of his time with everything, and just super, super nerdy, like always read, always knew information. He was always putting me on stuff, like, you know, he was going over to Germany and getting shot, or just making sure that I'm with his massage therapist. Like, he had somebody that was really good, and just always willing to share towards the end of his career. Like, he wasn't sharing in the middle.
Early Kobe was a different Kobe now.
Early Kobe was a different Kobe. And I just happened to catch, later. And so later in his career, he wanted to share and help. And Judy, his PT, his physical therapist, I worked out with Judy all the time because, he put me on that. Dr. Karazi. So it was just always cool to see, like, he was a student of the game, but then just like a student of life. Like, his mentality was just so, he could talk to you about anything. I mean, under the sun, and he would.
Man, that's deep, man. I want to bring this out because I want to ask this question. It may be a little emotional, but I feel like it's bigger than somebody else who needs to hear this. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about not just Kobe, but the relationship with Gigi, and kind of like, I would assume you had a chance, the gift that he gave you of game, you had a chance to, or relationship that you had with her. But I think that's so beautiful. People need to hear it. I don't want to put you on the spot for it, because I know no one is over Kobe Bryant's passing, and Gigi. We're not. Just that's the honest to God truth. But I feel like this is therapeutic for people. So talk to me a little bit about that relationship. To me, what Kobe was doing for women's basketball, what Gigi was going to do and has done for women's basketball. Talk a little bit about that.
Ryan, Kobe was a dad. And I think what's crazy is I see so much of my relationship with my dad in that it just happened to be her dad was one of the greatest basketball players to ever play the game. And I mean, we pulled up to the workout. Gigi hopped out. She came from school, came over to the workout when we were working out and with Kobe, and he's introducing, he's playing with his kid, like dad. And I think that's what's so special is that because he had so much talent, because he won championships, he was just a dude to them. And that's what was so special is being able to see them together. We saw normal stuff. And it's like seeing normal stuff from a god almost. Like, he's the greatest basketball player in the world. He shouldn't be doing that, but he is. And so I think being treated as an athlete, there's so many times where I would say female basketball player. Female basketball player. Like, we don't say male basketball player. And it was just that mentality of giving a voice and giving confidence to a game that so many people can look over or disregard. And that's how, we trained as athletes, and to just see the support. And we need that. Like women's basketball lost somebody that was so influential. I mean, we talk about men's basketball, yes, but women's basketball, we lost a huge advocate with that. And I think if there's anything that we can do to carry on, you know, Kobe's legacy is just that, is to support the things that he supported and to give light to those things. And I mean, I say this all the time. Gigi's fadeaway over her left, like there's people, the majority of the WNBA probably can't do that. That shimmy, lower your hips,
whoa.
over the left.
Is she right-handed?
She's right-handed.
Nah, because all right-handed players, they want to go over the right shoulder.
Over your right shoulder.
They want to go right shoulder, turn around jumper, left shoulders for the jump hook.
And what was crazy is she lowered her hips and just like sunk into her shot. So literally she had 2 pivot feet and could go over right shoulder or left. Like that's stuff that you don't teach. And so it was just the time and the energy. And, you know, it's really cool to see somebody that understands that and demonstrates that if you put the time in, then everything else will follow. And, you know, that's what I get from his legacy and from Gigi's legacy.
Now we're going to transition from one Laker that was probably one of your favorites to one maybe that wasn't so much. I remember watching the playoff game, and obviously Derek Fisher's your coach. You guys have a weird dynamic because he's your coach, but yet we all work together at Turner at NBA TV. And because I know you so well, you didn't go back into that game. And the camera hits you. I tapped my wife. I said, "Dog, Candace is hot. She's hot. Like I know, sis. Candace, and listen, Candace might mess around and break every TV screen and chair in that locker room when they get to the back. Why didn't you get back in? Did you talk to D Fish about that? Did you guys ever bury the hatchet? Because I'm not gonna lie, it was the energy in the room was a little weird when you guys were in the room after that.
It took me a really long time to get over that, if I'm being completely honest with you. The old Candace probably would have. But me now, I think I'm a little bit more level-headed, and I understand that it's easy to react that way. I think I've gotten my point across. Calm is a superpower, and I don't think I've mastered it yet, but I'm getting closer. And
elaborate on that, please. You said that's deep. You said it's easy to go in there.
No, it's easy to do that. And I think, you know, here's my thing. I have an 11-year-old daughter that watches everything I do, to the point now where I go to her AAU tournaments and she's talking to the ref. And she's talking to the ref the same way that I'm talking, with the same mannerism and the same, you know, she's doing this. She's rebounding the ball, dribbling the ball. She wants to be a point forward. Like she's emulating everything that I'm doing. And so at that point, you know, I did look to my family for some calm because I needed it. And I'm very competitive, so I understand. But I also, it's one of those things where it's like, given a pass because it's played with intensity and because you're competing for something. But in a workplace, you have issues with people that you work with all the time. You have issues with bosses. It just happens to be on a grander scheme and a grander stage. Have we completely squashed what we'll see? I mean, it's got to action speak louder than words, but have we talked about it? It did take me a long time to be able to, have a conversation and talk it out. Do I think it was right? I still don't think so. Do I think that should have happened? No, hell no, that shouldn't have happened. But it's not going to define me, and it's not going to define who I am and how I play the game. And so I think it's one of those control the things you can control. And, you know, like I said, 5 years ago, Candace, I would have been on SportsCenter throwing stuff. But at that point, it's kind of like, it feels good at the moment, but what does it really honestly accomplish? And so I think the biggest thing that it took me so long to get over was that this would never happen in the NBA. That's the biggest thing. And so I think the biggest thing for me is it would never happen in the NBA. And if it did, it would be a DeMar DeRozan situation, and they would be traded, or the coach would have to be like, something would have to change. And so for me, I still am continuing to fight. And I know I'm all over the place with this, but like, I'm continuing to fight for like women as athletes, not as women athletes, because I don't want the treatment to be different.
Thanks.
So that's the only thing is like, if I was a dude, I mean, I go back to the love and basketball line. If you a dude and you get upset, you get pat on your back. Me, I get told, I have an attitude. And so it's like, I got to remember that, but also I want that to change.
Dang, that's huge right there. That's deep. You dropping some bars, Candace. You dropping some gems. Hey, man. It's I want to take you all around the league and other players, but the Sparks and Lakers just died. Like the Hall of Fame, it's too much. Candace, there was another guy. What was it, about 2-3 years ago, who came to town, who was pretty darn big and joined the Lakers Sparks fraternity. I'm talking LeBron James, and he's on a quest, obviously, to bring a championship to LA, which we know how special it is. And Brendan, you're understanding even all the way from North Carolina how special it is. Talk to me about from the basketball side with LeBron James. Has he reached out to pick your brain? If you asked him, because you guys actually play extremely similar. There's not too many players, big guards on the planet that go out and get triple doubles. So what are those basketball talks like, if at all, with LeBron James, and how's that relationship basketball wise?
I mean, LeBron and I we see each other, we hit each other, we'll comment or something like that. But honestly, it's cool just in the LA basketball circuit to have basketball be extremely exciting again. I think we went through a little lull for the Lakers and as well as the Clippers. But now to think like 3 teams within Staples, really 4 if you count the LA Kings, could possibly win a championship. And that's pretty cool. I mean, dating back to when Kobe and Shaq were having three-peats, Lisa Leslie and the Sparks were winning back-to-back. So we would love to kind of 20 years later, kind of redo that. And listen, I think he's one of the hardest players in the world to guard. He's one of the greatest players to ever play the game of basketball. I think what he's doing off the court is what's kind of been my biggest thing. My biggest takeaway is I think as athletes, like he kind of set the bar to be one of the greatest off the court as well. And so that's where you have the impact and the lasting effect. And so just what he's doing, giving voices to people, the voting suppression that he's trying to accomplish. And so just all of that has been, great to watch.
Candace, I want to jump into your secondary career, your broadcasting career. I'm gonna go ahead and give you your flowers while you're here, because no, I'm serious. I joke a lot, but I promise you I'm not joking. I'm dead serious. The first time I ever saw you doing broadcasting was when we did the NCAA tournament together. And you had come from overseas and you had watched college basketball, but obviously because you're overseas, you didn't get a chance to watch as much as some other people. And you got on set and you were comfortable, you were natural, you studied, you came all polished. And I turned to Casey Stern when we went to one of the breaks, and I was like, yo, she's going to be really, really good at this. I was like my first time doing college basketball, I was terrible. I was so glad I was doing like Delaware State versus like Illinois versus like Illinois North or something, Northern Illinois. Like I was awful. And to see you come in so polished, was this something that you knew you always wanted to do? Does it just come natural to you? Where do you see this taking you? Because we know, hey, Chuck ain't gonna be there for too much longer. I could really see Candace Parker sliding onto the big set with Kenny and Shaq.
Honestly, it's the second best job ever. Playing basketball, you all know, is like your love and your passion. But what do we do when we're not playing basketball? We sit on the couch and we talk and we laugh and we joke and we watch. And honestly, I grew up watching tape. I have VHS tapes of the All-Star game when Vince Carter, went between his legs, when I watched that over and over, and Allen Iverson hit the ball off his elbow. I have old Duke tapes that I watched when Grant was playing. I have old USC tapes with Cheryl Miller. Like, I'm a student of the game of basketball. And so when I was given this opportunity, I kind of did a couple appearances on Area 21 with KG, and then Tara August called my agent and was like, hey, would you be interested in doing NCAA? And that was my first thing, was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know college basketball and I want to go in prepared. And it was kind of like, you know, the first day you're doing it, you don't know, you know, West Lafayette, Mississippi of the Cajun, whatever. You don't know those teams. And so it was kind of like, it was kind of like you just break down basketball, right? Like, that was a good move. He needs to do this, like the type of thing. And so it was really cool to be on set with you guys because you guys made me feel so comfortable. And I'll say this, going into broadcasting and sitting on the desk and being the only woman up there, people see that. But for me, with the crew that I'm with, I'm amongst commentators. Like, I don't think you guys are like, oh, well, she or her, or she's a woman comment. Like, you guys don't ever do that. And you don't treat me that way. And so I've been so lucky to have teammates that we go in the back and we argue and we fight and we, you know, whatever. It's two people fighting. It's not like I'm trying to check anybody or overstep or whatever. And I've never felt that way. So being comfortable is because of my teammates. And you know how Casey is. Casey's the best. And so just being up there with you, Seth, and all the other stuff, like, you know, like when you're on a team, we had so much fun. Like the NCAA tournament, it was great to watch, you know, to be on set, but offset, like dinners and like being in the back watching all 57 games and like all that. It made me feel comfortable to work with y'all.
I'll tell you this, the one thing I took away from your story is that we got to those sets in two different fashions. Tara August, our boss, called you and begged you to come on. Hey, listen, Candace, I'm not lying.
I picked up on that too.
Candace, I'm not lying. I stalked Olivia. Olivia, come on. I got to get on the show. You got to put me on this year. I had to stalk my way onto the show. They begged you to come on.
Facts.
Man, it's good to be Candace Parker.
Hey, Candace, I want you to elaborate on something. I don't know if you remember this talk, but I was coming in on like a Friday or a Thursday, and I was on the way out. You're on the way in. It might have been 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I've been a fan of just basketball, women's basketball, fan of your game, and I have watched you a couple of times early, and I saw you. I felt like you kept deferring in the sense like, well, I don't know NBA. I'm a fan. I understand this, so I don't want to take a stance. And I was getting so upset when we talked. I don't know if you remember this talk. I was like, Candace, I don't care. You are a baller. I said, we respect what you do on the court. So if you say that a guy, and you led your team to a championship, I can't say that. There ain't too many NBA players that can say that.
Shut up.
What? Hey, I'm just agreeing with his point.
Expressions.
I'm agreeing with his point.
Yeah, facts. No, for real. I think it's important to know that if you're a woman, if you earned your stripes, you have a voice. So talk about that. And listen, by no means am I taking credit for the Candace Parker train, but I was
upset. You.
Listen. I was so upset watching that, and I'm so just excited watching how you poking it out. You and I'm not saying you disrespect anybody, you're crying, but you are owning your space in a man's world, in a man's league, supposedly. So talk to me about that. And if you have advice, because there's another little girl who's going to be watching this show that wants to play hoops and broadcast and commentate that you're talking to and says, man, I know the NBA too. Or like, how should I approach this?
Ryan, I'm so happy you asked that, because I think when I left my house, I had so much confidence in my abilities because that was instilled in me. And in the similar way that when in some houses you're born and you're a boy, so you're just dope. And that's the reason why you're dope, is just because you're a boy. And it was never that way in my house. But when you get in the world and you start seeing things, and you start picking up on stuff, and you start picking up on language and words, and the boardroom and where meetings are done. I'll never forget. I was sitting on the shop with LeBron and I think it was Draymond Green and who else was on set? But anyway, we were sitting on set, and LeBron was like, you know how hard it is to be a black man to walk into a boardroom meeting, be the only black man. And I was like, you don't know what it's like to be a black man? I'm like, no, but I'm the only woman on set and I'm black. So like, I understand, you know, I get it. I understand the process, and I understand that, but they don't play by any rules that I have. There's not the black rule and there's not the woman rule that, you know, rules in boardrooms. It doesn't happen. And so do I adjust, or do I try to get people to understand my point of view? What do I do? And, Anthony was like, you do both. Like, you're confident in what you do. You can play by their rules, but you can also play by yours. And so I never try to get, and I hope that this does not come across, like, I never try to be one of the boys. Like, I try to be one of the players. And that was kind of the thing going in, and that helped me. And when I start losing that and I start deferring, like you said, like, Ryan, you said something, like my brother said something, my parents, like Tara even, it's like, you need to not, you can have your opinion and say things. And so I think it's just the being reaffirmed by people that understand, where you're coming from, but also not shrinking yourself. I mean, we're at the point now where we're not asking guys to back up from the table. We're just asking you to move over a little bit. And if you'll move over, it'll be better for all of us. We can have diverse ideas, diverse thought, all that. And so I just I'm really trying to open up those doors so that my daughter, because at this point, my daughter still believes that she can do anything. And I want her to keep believing that. I don't want anybody to tell her that she can't. And so that's the mentality I hope that other young girls and Ryan, young boys need to see women as role models. Because if you don't see women in leadership positions your entire childhood and then in entirety, are you going to hire one? Are you going to hire one when you're making the decisions? No, you're not. And so I think people misunderstand me pushing women's sports or me pushing, those things as like, I want people to like watch, or I want every young girl to grow up and play professional sports. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has the fact to do with, you have to see people doing that to be able to hire that. And it's no secret that the boardroom is run like a team sport. I mean, it's run like a locker room. And so if you don't ever play or participate or are part of that, you're not going to know what to do when you get older.
Right. Hey, just so you know,
I was long-winded on that.
No, that's all good.
Hey, Candace, just so you know, when I tell my version of the story, don't get mad because I'm gonna take credit. Just when you hear, I'm not taking no credit. But when I tell that story, I'm gonna take credit.
Come on, man. You can't take credit. You're gonna take credit for Candace.
No, not while she's here. Just when she's not here. When she's not here, I'll take credit.
And listen, I'll say this: Candace is really genuine in trying to get that message, because she's even taught me some things, right? Like, I'll never forget. It was me, Candace, and Kristen Ledlow. And we're in the room, and Candace had her shoe. And Casey Stern was like, oh, you got to get me a pair of those shoes. And I'm in the mindset that she was talking about. I grew up a certain way, right? I heard a certain thing my whole life. I made the mistake. I was like, come on, Casey, man, you can't wear her shoe. That's a girl's shoe. Hey, listen, it was almost like the room stopped moving. Candace gave me the death stare. Ledlow turned around there like, really, Brendan? But this is what I love, though. They didn't cuss at me. They didn't yell at me. They educated me. And I understood how wrong I was in that moment. And it was because all my life I've been told men are superior. Like she said, I'm a guy, I'm dope. And I had this mindset of, I can't look up to a woman. You learn this from what you see. And now women like Candace, Kristen Ledlow, I just mentioned her, like they're doing an excellent job of breaking those stereotypes. So I know for a fact that you're preaching it and you're living it. She had to check your boy. Hey, listen, I was dead wrong. I'm telling you, you listen. I learn a lot. Huh?
Yeah, I don't listen
Brandon,
to you because you say ridiculous stuff. I listen to her.
But here's the thing. I don't think everybody, and here's the thing, like I have an implicit bias. Like everybody has them. And it's okay. But when we like don't acknowledge it and we don't like try to make a change, or we think our way is the correct way and nobody else can say anything, like that's the issue. I don't have problems with like people saying things, because listen, like I misspeak all the time. Like I just got my grandma to stop saying something like, Grandma, that's right. Like you can't say that anymore. Like this day and age, like we can't say that.
All black women sometimes would just say some stuff that you just can't, I can't say on this pod.
Grandma, you can't say that.
My mom is 78 years old and lives with me. My mom says stuff that every day, it's like a race relations a meeting that we having upstairs. Ma, you really can't say that in 2020.
Like, let's not say that. Okay. But then the people that are like, okay, why? And then you explain and they're like, oh, I see your point. Or okay. Like, and you make a step, but it's the people that are like, it's fine, that are just like, you're not listening. And so thank you, Brendan, for listening.
Candace, you got to be, or you want me to
go ahead.
So while we on the topic, speaking about what you can say, what you can't say in the climate today of the world, Maya Moore. I mean, my God, I'm gonna just say her name. Let you get the floor. Have you reached out? Have you connected with her? Like, I think the whole sports world is kind of blown away from what she's done. Talk to me about Maya Moore, Candace.
You talk about being on the right side of history and not when it's the most happening thing at the moment. I mean, in 2018, she stepped away from basketball and she decided to pursue social justice. And I think everybody kind of was like, what are you doing? Type of thing. And it's crazy how time happens. And just to be able to really see the work that she's put in, to see what she sacrificed. I mean, you talk about, it's more than just posting a black square. And it's about people actually out there putting plans and actions in place. I think a lot of people right now have the attention of a lot of organizations, and a lot of organizations have a lot of money, and it's what they're going to do with it over a period of time. This isn't like a sprint. And I think she showed that it's a marathon. I mean, it took her 2 years to get this conviction overturned. This man was supposed to be in jail for 50 years from 18. And they tried to overturn it, and he finally got out. And it was just kind of like, how many more of those are there?
Right. So, I mean, like, listen, we all know that's tough, and this is a rough transition, but we're going to try to make it smooth anyway, because we're on to our last topic. And our last topic, we normally try to have fun, Candace. This is the fun. This isn't personal. This isn't anything deep. This is fun. We want to hear Candace Parker's best. It doesn't have to be a club story, but maybe club, lounge, or a story where you ran into somebody that you were in awe. Or you're all like, oh my, that's so-and-so. Because we get to the point where we get a little famous ourselves, and then you see somebody like that. Like for me, I told a story. I saw Nia Long, always grew up Nia Long on Boys in the Hood, Love Jones and everything. I run into Nia Long, her son staring at me. Yes, he asked me how tall I was. I was so happy that her son asked me how tall I was so that I could spark the conversation with Nia Long, right? Did you have any moment where you saw somebody and you were like, yo, that was an awe moment?
You know I live in LA, right?
So I know. That's why I had to ask. Yeah, I know you got the stories.
Okay, so...
Grant Hill talked about Michael Jackson, so he didn't...
Grant Hill met Michael. Ryan was looking Prince dead in his eyes.
I didn't look in his eyes, Brendan.
You look Prince in his eyes.
Can't look in his eyes, man.
I know.
Can't do that. Okay, so I have two. One is I was fresh. No, I was still in college, and I was fresh into the 21 Club. So this was when my middle brother Marcus came out, met me at the ESPYs. This is in LA. I'm still at Tennessee. We're like, okay, we're gonna have so much fun. This is gonna be crazy. And this was when like the ESPYs were like really dope. Like you went out, everybody went to the same parties, everything. So we go to the Mondrian Hotel. They're having a party across the street. So we get there. And this adds to your Nia Long story. So I see D-Wade hooks it up, gives me the D-Wade sidekick. So I think I'm cool. You go back to the campus with the D-Wade sidekick, it's over. So I got the D-Wade sidekick. He hooked it up, like, cool. He was like, yo, like, come hang with us, whatever, come into our section, blah, blah, blah. So I go over there, Gabrielle Union, Nia Long, and Sanaa Lathan.
Oh, man.
In the section.
I'm loving basketball. Come on.
So I'm like, oh my God. So my brother's going crazy because he's like, every pretty black actress that has been in any movie in the last 10 years is right here. So we go over there. They make my brother's like life by taking a picture with him. Like they're like laughing. And I just happen to take like a picture like they're hanging out. And then we take a picture. It's like me, Gabby, Nia, and Sanaa all take a picture. And that was like on our calendar, on our family calendar for like 6 years. And we hung out with them. We had drinks. We had the best time. So then later that night, we go to this after party and we see Suge Knight and Paris Hilton dancing in the after party.
Together. Suge Knight and Paris. That doesn't even sound like it go together.
That's how we ended the night.
Death Row.
Yeah, that's like peanut butter. That's like peanut butter and ketchup. They don't go together.
That's what I'm saying. It was just like, that was our night. And so, yeah, that was like one of the most fun weekends I've ever had. And it happened to be at the ESPYs in LA. And then the second time was NBA Awards in New York. I was there for the first time, like it was the first ever NBA Awards that they had. And I was there. Drake was the host. And
yes.
during the show, like he was just like, we were like smiling, laughing, like whatever. And so then after the show, he came down and was like, yo, like what are you doing after the show? He was like, I'm throwing this party if you want to come. And I was like, yeah, okay. Like, I already know how this is going to go. You're going to say, give me a number. And then like, that's it. So then he was like, no, give me your number. I was like, all right. And so he texted me. He was like, yeah, we're going to this club. So I get there. He's like, text me when you get there. So we get there. Everything's all set up at the club. Like everything's whatever. Get in there. He raps his whole, like the Portland song was my favorite song.
Yes,
so he
sir.
rapped the whole Portland song. Like we had the most amount of fun. It was awesome. So we had like every song that Drake sang, he was on my, I know he got annoyed, but I was like, whatever. So that was probably my two like most epic nights with epic people.
You got the party with Drake? Ooh.
It was crazy.
Oh, you such a superstar.
No, he had all 6'5" and over girls in his because it was like the New York Liberty team. And then it was Roz, myself. It was like everybody was over 6'5", and then it was Drake. It was hilarious.
Okay.
Hey, well, Candace, man, amazing stuff. We don't want to hold you too much longer, but talk to us about obviously where can we find you outside of TNT, any charities, projects you're supporting, stuff where you want to raise awareness to, where can we, the Opinionated 7 Foot crew,
I love how it's like the club story and then charity. This is a great transition. No, Alzheimer's is huge. Pat Summitt Foundation. I've done a lot of work with them. And honestly, it's near and dear to my heart because, we lost a legend to Alzheimer's. So I would say just Pat Summitt Foundation. You can help out there and just trying to bring awareness to that because I think it affects so many families and we got to get a cure.
Amen. Hey, well, the last thing we'll ask is we need a shout out, man. We asking you for a shout out. So shout out the 7 Footers Opinionated Podcast and your favorite 7 footer and then Brendan Haywood.
Stop it. Candace barely knows you.
Hey, dog, I know AP. I play with AP, dog.
That don't matter. Candace barely knows you.
Hey, Candace, I remember when you was coming into the cafeteria and speaking Russian to Lil Mama. She was speaking Russian back. Hey, come on, man. Come on, Brendan.
She done lost all that, man. But yeah.
She think you August Alsina, man. She don't really know you, man. Tell me he don't look like August Alsina.
Hey, man, stop spreading that.
Tell me he don't look like August Alsina.
Hey, stop spreading
Yo, you're in timeout, man.
Yo, Ryan gonna be on the
absolute time out.
Bet money Ryan end up on the next Red Table Talk. Bet money.
Time out.
Bet money.
You
ready to come to the table.
Bet money.
All right, let's get our shout out, man, so we can get out of here.
All right, so you want me to say my name or just
shout it out? Candace Parker here, your legend, the legend.
No, I will never say that. I will never say that.
Just shout out the Opinionated 7 Footers Podcast. That's all you got to do.
I got you. It's Candace Parker here, shouting out the Opinionated 7 Footers Podcast. 2 guys, my homies. Definitely check it out.